Had a few things weighing on my mind over the past few weeks that I've been trying to formulate how I wanted to talk about them. And one of them is something that I'm going to call religious apophenia. Now, apophenia is the experience of seeing patterns or connections in random or meaningless data. You know, seeing patterns that aren't really there and imagining that coincidences are more than coincidences. And, this has happened to me in the past several weeks. Um, I thought I'd give a pretty benign example, and I'd also give a pretty hurtful example. Um, First example is, I just so happen to live in the same neighborhood as my grandmother, and she's a devout Catholic, and she's the best human being that I know. And the other day, I just happened to be driving around, and I happened to see her as she was coming out of church in the afternoon. And it seemed like a pretty interesting coincidence because, I was thinking about her in the car at the time. But, upon reflection, I was really trying to connect together dots that, were actually disparate because, I made the conscious choice to, drive through that part of the neighborhood at the time that, church was letting out. And, driving by the church, I was more likely to be thinking about her in the first place. So, I kind of created my own self-fulfilling scenario, even though at the time, it seemed like some kind of intuition. The more hurtful example is related to intercessory prayer. Last year, my dad had been unemployed for a very long period of time. And, church folk that, he and I have been acquainted with were praying about that for quite a long time. And in January, my mom, who had been working at the church that my dad was attending, she had to stop working. She just couldn't do the job anymore. She couldn't remember how to do it, the ordinary tasks. And almost at the exact same time, he was hired for a job. And there were lots of people who got in contact with them and mentioned that they were so glad that God happened to answer their prayers at just the right time. The problem with that being that a couple months later, after she had gone through some tests, we got the report back that that she's not going to be able to work anymore, and that she would need to start going through the process of being put on state disability. And almost at the exact same time, my dad got laid off from his job. So that's kind of like the equivalent of giving a man who's nearly unconscious from thirst a drink of water, and before he's scarcely been able to take a few drops, the canteen is kicked out of his hand, and the water is spilled on the ground and wasted. But was that really an answer to prayer? These people who claim to be spirit-filled didn't have the slightest idea what they were talking about. Seeing patterns that weren't there. Apophenia. And, also related to who has the spirit or not is, I just, this statement kind of it began to make sense in my mind within the past week or so. And it was mostly because, my dad, who I happen to be friends with on Facebook, yeah, that's just the way we are. He quoted a little bit from an article that he had read about, a biblical worldview. And a paragraph in that says that the biblical worldview must be revealed from God. Okay. What about people who their worldview and their morals, which they claim to have been revealed from God, are incompatible with the worldview and morals from another person who claims to have had a worldview revealed from God? Who's right and who's wrong, and how many things can the wrong person get wrong, but before they go from the in crowd to the out crowd. And that really got me thinking that this biblical worldview and the Bible being an objective source of morality are illusions. That there may be the idea of a biblical worldview and the idea of the Bible being an objective source of morality, but what it really comes down to is a worldview informed by an individual's interpretation of the Bible and moral decisions which may also be informed by individual interpretation of the Bible. That's really what it comes down to, a Bible and someone's conscience. And that's even in the case with churches where the Bible says exactly what the church says it does. Every individual church has their own interpretation of the Bible, and every individual within that individual church, outside of the church doors, they're forced to make decisions based upon their own interpretation. And they all believe that these decisions and these views are revealed from God. So who's having the truth revealed to them by God, and who's having lies revealed to them by God? Or does that happen at all? Anyway, those are just some things on my mind. Be interested if someone else has come to similar conclusions somewhere down the road.